Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie if you're new here, and I wanted to share with you guys my birth stories. I've had this on my list of videos to do for quite some time, like probably since my channel was brand new. And then my friend Deanna and her channel Taming the Frizz, she just posted her birth story of her first child a couple weeks ago now, and I watched it and was just like, oh my goodness, yes, I need to share my birth stories. I wanted to share these stories with you guys. So I'm going to start today by sharing the birth story of my oldest son Elijah, and I will in the next coming weeks and months share some of my other birth stories as well. So my son Elijah just turned 7 years old. He was born in July of 2010. So I'm going to share a little bit of backstory here before I share the actual birth story. I was with the midwives for this pregnancy, and I had our midwives offer either home birth or hospital birth, and right off the bat I said I wanted a hospital birth. I just felt safer going that route. And so throughout my pregnancy, everything was great, very healthy, very smooth pregnancy. And I kind of started thinking about home birth a little bit throughout the pregnancy and thinking, oh, home birth would be nice. And I started to have more confidence with that. I'd read a lot of home birth and natural birth stories. I did want a natural birth, but I was just leaning towards hospital. We also were living in a house at the time where we had no air conditioning, and it was of course the middle of summer, and that was a really hot summer too. And I thought, oh, if it's going to be a hot day when he's born, I am not going to be able to do it at home. So let's just stick with a hospital birth, and maybe for any of our other babies after this, maybe we'll try for a home birth. A little tidbit about me is that I come from a family where there are 10 kids. My mom had 10 single births, and she was either on her due date or late for each of her births. She was never early. So I was definitely thinking I'm gonna go late, and I'm gonna be late. I just figured I would be. So two days before my due date, I woke up. Everything was great. Oh, another thing I should mention, sorry, I think I'm gonna be going like back and forth in this story, like, wait, I missed this part. So I'll try to make this as smooth and thorough of a birth story as I can, but we'll see how it goes. My husband at that time was working construction, and he was working about 3 hours away from where we lived. And he was working Monday morning to Thursday night. So he would leave for work Sunday afternoon, and he would come back on Thursday night. So this was a Thursday, and I woke up in the morning, everything was normal. I got up and I just kind of cleaned the house and baked some chocolate chip cookies. And then in the afternoon, I went over to my in-laws' house, and they had a swimming pool. So I went swimming for a while, and it was around 5:30 in the evening, and I thought I'm gonna go home. My husband usually got home right around 9 o'clock, and I thought I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna have a nap and just eat a little bit of supper, and then he'll come home. So it was about 5:30. I was just finishing up in the pool, and I felt a couple of cramps. I didn't even know at the time were contractions, but I felt those. Got in my car and started to drive home, and on my drive home I was like, oh, maybe these are contractions. I've never, for some reason, all my pregnancies, I didn't really get Braxton Hicks. I think I noticed them a little bit in my last pregnancy, but other than that, I really didn't feel Braxton Hicks. So strange as that sounds, I had no idea what contractions were gonna feel like. And so anyways, 5:30, I'm starting to drive home, and I'm thinking, maybe these are contractions. So I started to kind of watch my clock in the car as I'm driving. And these are happening every 3 minutes, like exactly every 3 minutes I'm getting a contraction. And even as I'm driving, they're getting more painful. And so I got home, went to the bathroom. It was about 5:50 at this time, and I'm thinking, should I call my husband, or just to let him know I'm in labor, or what should I do? Thinking, okay, maybe I'm in labor. I wasn't even sure at this point if this was actually labor. But thinking that these contractions were coming regularly, I thought it probably is. So I kind of walked around for a minute, went to the bathroom again. When you're in labor, it's just like, okay, what do I do? Like, you just feel like you have to go to the bathroom. And so this time I had just a little bit of bloody show and thought, okay, I'm sure this is the beginning of labor. I'm just gonna call him. So it was about 10 to 6. I picked up the phone. I knew he finished work at 6, but I called him and just said, I think we're having the baby tonight. And he's like, okay, I'm coming home right now. I'll be there in about 3 hours. And I thought, okay, perfect. So I just kind of started to grab a few things to put into my hospital bag. As we were on the phone, I just kind of grabbed my toothbrush and deodorant and started putting those in my hospital bag, just kind of getting that ready. And then I went and sat on the toilet again and felt a small gush, and I thought, I think my water just broke. But I got off the toilet and kind of walked around, and no more water was coming out. And I had heard that when your water breaks, you get that gush, and then you kind of get another gush and another gush as the water's kind of coming down around the baby's head. And I guess thinking back on it now, his head must have been so engaged that it was that one gush. His head kind of descended a bit, and then that was it. Anyway, so then I got off the phone with my husband and said, okay, my water broke. I think I'm just gonna try to take a little nap, and then I'll call my midwife and let her know what's going on. So I went and laid down, and I was like, how do people even take naps when they are in labor? I don't get it. Like, people say just take a little nap, you know, have a snack, whatever. I laid down and I was like, I cannot sleep. There's absolutely no way. My contractions were getting a lot harder fast. And so this was 7 o'clock now. I called my midwife and I just said, hey, I'm pretty sure I'm in labor. I think my water just broke. Do you want to come over and check me and see how I'm doing? I told her that my husband was away and on his way home from work. And she said, okay, well, why don't you get a snack, have a shower, try to take a nap, and I'll come maybe between 8 and 8:30. And so I was kind of like, okay, I think she could hear in my voice that I was a little bit unsure, like wanting her to come. And she's like, okay, well, since you're alone, would you like me to come earlier just to kind of to be with you? And I said, yeah, that would be really nice. And so she said, okay, I'll be there at about 7:30. So I walked downstairs and I got out one of the chocolate chip cookies I'd made that day, and I thought, I just need to eat something because this is going to be a long night. I took one bite of the cookie and I was just like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to throw up if I eat anymore. Like it was painful. And I thought, this is going to be such a long night because these contractions are getting so painful. And I remember just like leaning over our kitchen chairs every time I had a contraction and just like they were getting real. And so then I went upstairs and had a quick shower just the whole time, like, oh my goodness, like I was just, it's hard to explain. I just remember walking around just feeling like, what is going on here? Like my body had all of a sudden gone from like being normal to like really in labor. And so anyway, I had a shower, so uncomfortable. I got out of the shower and just laid in bed. And the midwife came at 7:30. So this has been 2 hours since my labor started. And she came upstairs and she said, okay, well, do you want me to check you? And I was like, yes, please check. And I expected her to say like, you're 3 or 4 centimeters, you know, you have a ways to go. Like, I'm going to leave and come back later. Anyway, so she checked me and she's like, Julie, you are fully dilated. And instantly, like, I just remember feeling like, what? Like, are you kidding me? I've been alone this whole time and I'm fully dilated. She's like, have you felt the urge to push at all? And I'm like, maybe a little bit, but not really. Like, as coming up to this point, I felt like, oh, this is bad. Like, this is labor. Okay, this is what it's like. Like, it's going to be a long haul now. And then as soon as she said you're fully dilated, I was like, oh my goodness, that was so easy. Even though it wasn't really, but just realizing that I was at 10, it was like, that was it? Oh my goodness, like that's crazy. And so she was just asking like, how far away is your husband and everything. And she said, what do you feel about having a home birth? She said, because either we're gonna have a home birth right here or we are gonna have to call the ambulance and you might not make it to the hospital in time. And so I said, yeah, I'd love a home birth. Anyway, so she had called my husband. He said, well, I'm still an hour away and it's pouring rain. And she said, okay, drive safe. And so I was like, he might miss it. And I was really worried about that. And she's like, don't worry about it. Just worry about having your baby. Like, don't worry about that. And so at this point, my contractions had kind of stopped. It was weird, but they had just stopped. And so she was kind of getting out all of her home birth supplies. She had to go out to her car and get all the oxygen and everything she needed. And so she was bringing that in. And anyway, she's like, okay, well, that's fine. If you don't feel like you have to push yet, just wait. And then, you know, more likely your husband will be here. And so I waited for a while and I wasn't really getting contractions. Then I started to get some contractions again and said, okay, now I feel like pushing. So this was about 8 o'clock. So I started pushing. The head slowly started to come out. The pushing phase felt like it took forever. His head would kind of come out a little bit and kind of go back in. Then it would come out more as I pushed and then go in a little bit more. And anyways, my husband got home at 9 o'clock. I had been worried even before this. I was like, can you please call him again and just see how he's doing? And my midwife is like, no, you need to just worry about getting this baby out. He'll get here. Anyway, so he was speeding in the rain. He told me after that it was a little bit of a scary drive, and I'm glad I hadn't talked to him because I would have been more worried for him, I think. Anyways, he made it home safely. 9 o'clock he got there, and Elijah's head was sticking out. We didn't even know yet what we were having. We didn't find out with any of our kids. They were all surprise genders, which was so fun. Anyway, so he came at 9 o'clock. I pushed for a bit longer, and 9:37 Elijah was born. And it was just amazing. Like, as soon as he was born and we had the whole experience of the midwife staying, and I got up and had a shower, actually ended up passing out in the shower. And I remember just coming out and just watching my husband sitting there in the rocking chair holding Elijah. My husband was just sitting there falling asleep because of course he had just finished a long week of work, and Elijah was just laying there crying in his arms. And I was just like, man, home birth is amazing. Like, if you can do it. I just thought, man, I am having all my babies at home, like, guaranteed, if I can. It was just a wonderful experience. Everything else after the birth was quite smooth. I couldn't pee after, so I ended up having to have a catheter in just to empty my bladder. I did have to have some stitches. The midwife stayed around for a while. I think they left at like 1 in the morning, and then we were able to just go to sleep that night. And it was just like, I cannot believe we have a baby at the end. Like, my labor started at 5:30 in the evening, and I thought I'd probably have him, you know, halfway through the next day, and I ended up having him at 9:30. So just a crazy, fast, unexpected home birth, but such a wonderful experience. And in the next few weeks, I'll share with you my second and third and fourth birth as well. So give this video a thumbs up if you're excited to see those, and comment down below if you have any questions about my birth, anything I missed. I think I included everything, but any questions or about labor or delivery, any of that kind of stuff. And thank you for sticking through and watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!